The father who worked day and night for his family. There once was a man named James Carter who lived in a small town on the edge of the city. He wasn't rich, he wasn't famous, and he didn't have a college degree. But what he did have was something far greater, a heart full of love for his family. James was the kind of man who woke up before dawn, long before the rest of the world opened its eyes. While most people were still dreaming, he was already on his way to work, walking down the quiet streets with a lunchbox in one hand and determination in the other. He worked at a warehouse during the day, lifting heavy boxes, loading trucks, and fixing whatever broke. The pay wasn't great, and the hours were long, but James never complained. When his shift ended in the evening, most of his co-workers would head home to rest. But James didn't. He had a second job waiting for him. At night, he cleaned offices downtown, emptying trash cans and mopping floors until his legs ached. He didn't do it because he loved the work. He did it because he loved his family. At home waited his wife, Laura, and their 2 children, Mia, a bright 10-year-old girl with dreams of becoming a doctor, and Ethan, a shy 7-year-old who never slept until his father returned home. Their house was small and old, but Laura made it warm. She always tried to make sure the children never felt poor. "We may not have much," she would say, "but we have love, and that's enough." But James wanted more for them. He wanted his children to grow up without the struggles he faced. He wanted them to have choices, opportunities, and a childhood filled with happiness. And so he worked, day and night, through summer heat and winter storms, through sickness and exhaustion. Every night when he returned home, long past midnight, he would quietly open the front door, trying not to wake anyone. But somehow, Mia always heard him. "Daddy," she would whisper from her room. "You're home." "Yes, sweetheart," he'd whisper back. "Go back to sleep." Sometimes she would get up and wait for him, sitting on the couch with a blanket around her shoulders. "You look tired, Daddy," she'd say, and he would smile, even though his back hurt and his hands were covered in calluses. "I'm fine," he'd reply. "As long as you're happy, I'm fine." But the truth was, he wasn't fine. He was running out of strength, slowly, quietly. He never told anyone. He didn't want to worry his family. That's what fathers do. They carry the weight of the world on their shoulders and still find a way to smile. Months passed. Bills kept coming. Rent went up. School supplies, groceries, doctor visits, everything cost more. James worked harder, slept less, and ate quickly between shifts. Sometimes he fell asleep on the bus, missing his stop. But he would laugh it off. "Just tired," he'd say. "Nothing to worry about." His co-workers admired him. "You're the hardest working man I've ever met," one of them told him. James just shrugged. "I'm not working for myself," he said quietly. "I'm working for them." He carried photos of his family in his wallet, a worn-out picture of Laura holding the kids at the beach years ago. Whenever work got tough, he'd look at that photo and whisper to himself, "Keep going, James. Just a little longer." He promised himself that one day he would save enough to buy a small house with a yard where the kids could play and grow up safely. That dream kept him alive. But dreams sometimes demand too much from those who chase them. One cold December night, after finishing his second shift, James was driving home. Snow fell quietly outside, painting the streets white. He was exhausted, his eyes heavy, his hands trembling from fatigue. He hadn't eaten properly in 2 days. He just wanted to get home, hug his kids, and rest for a few hours before morning came again. But his body had other plans. As he parked the car in front of his house, he felt a sharp pain in his chest. It was sudden, deep, like a weight crushing his ribs. He tried to ignore it, thinking it was just tiredness. He took a deep breath and stepped out of the car. He managed to reach the front door, but before he could turn the key, everything went dark. When Laura opened the door moments later, she found him collapsed on the porch, snowflakes covering his jacket. The ambulance came quickly, the sirens cutting through the quiet night. Mia and Ethan stood by the window, terrified, watching their father being carried away. Laura held them close, trying to stay strong, but tears kept falling down her face. At the hospital, the doctor spoke gently. "He's exhausted," he said, "severely overworked. His body has been under too much stress for too long. He needs rest and care." For the first time in years, James lay still. The machines beeped beside him. His hands, rough from years of labour, now lay soft and motionless. Laura sat by his side, holding his hand, whispering, "You should have told me. You didn't have to do this alone." James opened his eyes weakly and looked at her. "I just wanted to give you all a better life," he whispered. "I thought I had more time. You already gave us everything," she said through tears. "We just wanted you." He smiled faintly, his eyes glistening. "Tell the kids, I'm proud of them. Tell them to follow their dreams. That's all I ever wanted." The next morning, the hospital room was quiet, the beeping stopped, and with one last breath, James Carter, the man who worked day and night for his family, was gone. The world moved on, as it always does, but for his family, time seemed to stop. The house felt empty, the laughter was quieter, the smell of coffee in the morning was gone, but his love never left. It stayed in every corner of that small house, in the pictures on the wall, in the worn-out shoes by the door, in the memories that refused to fade. Weeks later, Laura found a small envelope hidden inside James's old lunchbox. Inside, it was a note written in his messy handwriting. "If you're reading this, it means I couldn't keep my promise, but please don't be sad. Every hour I worked, every tear, every ache, it was all for you. I may not be there to hold your hands anymore, but I'll always be watching over you. Love each other. Be kind. Never forget how much I love you." There was also a small bundle of cash, his last savings. On the note, he had written, "For Mia's school books." Laura pressed the note to her chest and cried. It wasn't the money that broke her heart. It was the love behind it, the quiet sacrifices no one had noticed, the dreams he had carried silently, the life he had given up for them. Years passed. Mia grew up and became a doctor, just like her father wanted. Ethan became a teacher. They both worked hard, driven by the memory of the man who never gave up on them. Every time life got tough, they remembered their father's tired smile and his words, "Keep going, just a little longer." On the day of Mia's graduation, Laura stood alone in the crowd, holding a photograph of James in her hand. When Mia received her degree, she looked up at the sky and whispered, "We did it, Dad. You were right. Hard work always pays off." That night, they sat together as a family, talking about him, his jokes, his stories, his love for terrible coffee, his habit of falling asleep mid-sentence. They laughed and cried at the same time, because that's what love does. It hurts and heals all at once. And though James was gone, his presence never faded. Every time the porch light flickered, Laura smiled softly. "That's him," she would whisper, telling us he's still here. In the end, James Carter didn't leave behind money or fame. He left something far greater, a legacy of love, sacrifice, and strength. He taught his children what true success means. Not how much you earn, but how much you give. Not how long you live, but how deeply you love. So if you still have your father with you, hug him a little tighter tonight. Tell him you see him. Tell him you're grateful. Because behind every simple meal, every clean uniform, every small comfort, there's a father who silently gave up parts of himself to make your world brighter. Fathers don't ask for much. They just hope their children will one day understand the meaning behind all the long hours and tired smiles. And if they do, that's all the reward a father ever needs.